My name is Agnes Periwinkle, and I am 78 years old. I live in a small farmhouse in Harmony Creek, a town that's forgetting itself, trading its old-timers and dusty fields for new subdivisions with names like Willow Creek Estates. My house, built by my late husband, Arthur, with his own hands, is my last anchor to the world we shared. It's where we raised our son, Thomas, and where I plan to live out my days. But to my son and his sharp-edged wife, Bethany, this house isn't a home. It's a burden. And I, the old woman who rattles around inside it, am an even bigger one. Their visits, once a rare treat, now feel like inspections. Thomas, a manager at the local bank, avoids my eyes while Bethany scans my living room, her gaze lingering on the worn upholstery and the dusty bookshelves. "This is just too much for you, Grandma," she'll say, her voice dripping with a sweetness that never reaches her eyes. "You should be somewhere you can relax." I know what relax means. It means a sterile room in an assisted living facility. It means selling my home, my land, and my memories to fund their comfortable, modern life. The campaign to remove me began subtly. "You really shouldn't be driving, Agnes. It's not safe. Why bother cooking for one? You can have meals prepared for you." Each suggestion was a small cut, designed to make me doubt my own competence. They spoke about me as if I weren't in the room, debating my frailty and my forgetfulness. They were building a case against me, brick by brick, sigh by sigh. They needed me to be incapable so they could justify their own desires. To them, my independence wasn't a virtue, it was an obstacle. The final straw came after a minor accident. I tripped over a loose flagstone on my garden path, a stone Arthur had always meant to fix. I sprained my ankle, nothing more. But to Thomas and Bethany, it was the proof they'd been waiting for. "See, Mom?" Thomas said, his face a mask of false concern. "What if it had been worse? What if you'd been out here for days?" They swooped in, not with comfort, but with brochures. Glossy pamphlets showing smiling, white-haired strangers playing bingo in antiseptic common rooms. It was a pre-packaged death. That night, I sat in my kitchen, my ankle propped on a pillow. Their voices drifted from the living room, hushed but sharp. "She's a burden, Thomas," Bethany whispered. "She's just sitting on this valuable land, letting the house fall apart. We could get a good price if we act fast." Thomas mumbled something, a weak protest, but he didn't disagree. A burden. The word echoed in the quiet farmhouse, a final, heavy blow. My heart, which had ached with sadness, now felt a different, colder pulse. It was the hardening of resolve. They thought I was useless. They thought I was finished. They had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. The night after they called me a burden, I couldn't sleep. The word was a stone in my stomach. I limped through the silent house, every creak of the floorboards a memory of Arthur. He'd never have stood for this. "Always keep something back, Aggie," he used to tell me, a twinkle in his eye as we'd jar preserves. "You never know when you'll need it." He wasn't just talking about peaches. He was a quiet man, a planner. He saw the world changing, saw the way men like his own son were starting to value dollars more than dirt. And he had planned accordingly. With a jolt, I remembered. The attic. Under the loose floorboard, just behind the chimney stack. I grabbed my flashlight and pulled down the attic stairs, the rusty springs groaning in protest. The air up there was thick with dust and time. I navigated past old trunks, ghostly furniture draped in white sheets, and boxes of Thomas's childhood relics, ironic, considering he was so eager to throw away my past. I made my way to the back, my heart pounding against my ribs, and knelt on the rough plank floor. My fingers found the seam of the loose board. I pried it up. And there, resting on the joist, was a small, tin box. It wasn't for cookies, it was an old tobacco tin Arthur had always kept his private things in. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, there wasn't any money. There was a single, old-fashioned key, the kind for a safe deposit box, and a neatly folded document. It was a deed. But it wasn't the deed to my farmhouse. The coordinates and lot numbers were for a different parcel of land, one I barely recognized, the old Harmony quarry. I stared at it, confused. The quarry was a worthless pit, abandoned decades ago, a scar on the edge of town. Why would Arthur buy it? Why would he hide this? I sat there in the dusty dark, the beam of my flashlight illuminating the yellowed paper. This was Arthur's something back. This was the secret he'd left me. My mind, which my family insisted was failing, began to whir. They saw a frail old woman, a burden to be managed. They had no idea what I was holding. A plan began to form, a cold, clear path forward. If they wanted me to be a confused old woman, I would play the part. I would let them lead themselves into the trap Arthur had left for them. I placed the deed back in the tin, but I kept the key. I hobbled back downstairs, the pain in my ankle gone, replaced by a surge of electric purpose. The game was on. The next time Thomas and Bethany visited, I was ready. I sat in my armchair, a quilt over my knees, and put on the performance of a lifetime. When Bethany walked in, I squinted and said, "Oh, hello, dear. I'm sorry, my mind is just foggy. What was your name again?" The look of smug justification that passed between her and Thomas was exactly what I'd hoped for. "It's Bethany, Grandma," she said, her voice dripping with pity. "See, Thomas? It's getting worse." I let them fuss over me, bringing me tea I didn't want and fluffing pillows that were fine. I played the part perfectly, sighing and seeming confused by the remote control. "Oh, dear," I said, my voice trembling just right. "I'm so worried about all my papers. Since Arthur passed, I just can't keep track." I looked at my son, the bank manager, with wide, watery eyes. "Thomas, you're so smart with money." I have this old key. I think it's for Arthur's safe deposit box. Could you possibly see what's in it for me? I'm afraid I'll just lose it all." Thomas puffed up immediately, the dutiful son taking charge. "Of course, Mom. Don't you worry your pretty little head about it. I'll take care of everything." He saw this as the final step. He would go to the bank, find what he assumed were a few old savings bonds and perhaps the deed to the house, and confirm that I was incapable of managing my own affairs. It was the perfect opening for him to help me sign everything over. He took the key from my trembling hand, patting me condescendingly. I made sure not to give him the tin box or the quarry deed. The safe deposit box was a diversion. I knew what was in it, some of Arthur's war medals and our old marriage certificate. Sentimental, but financially worthless. It was the perfect bait. "You're a good son, Thomas," I whispered, closing my eyes as if exhausted. "I don't know what I'd do without you." He and Bethany left soon after, victorious, convinced they had their useless grandma right where they wanted her. They had no idea that I was the one pulling the strings. I couldn't let Thomas be the only one with a key. I needed my own player in this game, someone who saw me, not the frail old woman I was pretending to be. I thought of Carlos Rodriguez, Arthur's best friend from the old feed mill. Carlos was gone, but his granddaughter, Mila, was not. She was a brand new lawyer in town, sharp as a tack, with a tiny office above the diner. She was hungry, and I knew she had a soft spot for the old-timers her grandfather had loved. I called her. "Mila, this is Agnes Periwinkle. I have a legal matter. And," I added, "it concerns the future of Harmony Creek." That got her attention. We met at the diner, the smell of stale coffee and bacon in the air. I slid the folded quarry deed across the vinyl tabletop. "My family thinks I'm incompetent," I said flatly. "They want my house. Arthur left me this. I think it's my only weapon." Mila opened the deed, her eyes scanning the coordinates. Her professional demeanor cracked. "Mrs. Periwinkle." "Agnes, do you know what this is?" she whispered, pulling out her laptop. This isn't just a quarry. This is the only parcel of land with the geological stability to support the new commercial development project. The one that's supposed to save this town's economy. She typed furiously. A massive development group has been trying to acquire this land for a year. They've been blocked by an anonymous owner. That anonymous owner was Arthur, I said, my voice quiet. Mila's eyes lit up, a sharp, brilliant fire in them. Agnes, they don't just want this land. They need it. Without it, their entire project, worth tens of millions, collapses. She leaned in closer. And guess which bank is the primary financier for that development group? I didn't have to guess. My son's bank, I said. Mila smiled. They're not just trying to put you in a home, Agnes. They're trying to steal a gold mine they don't even know you have. Thomas returned a few days later, his face a mask of disappointment he tried to hide. Well, Mom, I went to the safe deposit box, he said, handing me the small velvet bag with Arthur's medals. Just some old keepsakes. Nothing to worry about. He had found no stocks, no bonds, no hidden cash. He was now thoroughly convinced that my only asset was the farmhouse, and that I was just a foggy old woman sitting on his inheritance. The hook was set. Now that he believed I was penniless and confused, he and Bethany moved for the kill. They arrived that Friday, not with smiles, but with a thin, severe-looking man in a suit. Agnes, Bethany said, her voice all business, this is Mr. Harrison. He's a lawyer, and he's just here to help us organize your affairs. My heart hammered, but I kept my face placid and confused. Organize? I asked, looking at Thomas. Mr. Harrison placed a thick document on my coffee table. I didn't need to read the title, I knew exactly what it was. Durable Power of Attorney. It would give Thomas full control over my finances, my property, and my medical decisions. It was the legal weapon they needed to put me in the home and sell my house from under me. It's just a formality, Mom, Thomas said, refusing to meet my eyes. It's so I can pay your bills for you, since you've been having so much trouble remembering. I looked at my son, the boy I had raised, now a man I didn't recognize. You think I can't pay my own bills, Thomas? I asked, my voice soft. It's for the best, Mom. We can't risk you falling again or forgetting, he said, his voice hard. This was the moment. The full, cold-blooded betrayal. I looked at the paper, then at the three of them, a pack of well-dressed wolves waiting for the old sheep to sign her life away. I see, I said, my voice trembling, but this time with ice, not fear. I'll need to have my own lawyer review this, of course. The look of pure shock on Bethany's face was worth $1 million. My lawyer comment threw them into a panic, but they couldn't exactly stop me without revealing their hand. Mila Rodriguez moved faster than they could have imagined. She didn't just review their paperwork, she scheduled a new meeting. Not at my house, but in the main boardroom of Thomas's bank. When Thomas and Bethany arrived, they were furious. This is ridiculous, Grandma, Bethany hissed. Why are we here? But when they saw who was already at the table, they fell silent. It wasn't just me and Mila, it was Mr. Davies, the bank president and Thomas's boss. Mr. Davies, Thomas stammered, I apologize for this. My mother is unwell. On the contrary, Mila said, standing up and placing a neat file on the polished table. Mrs. Periwinkle is quite well. We're not here to discuss her power of attorney. We're here to discuss the old Harmony quarry. Thomas actually laughed. The quarry? That worthless pit? But Mr. Davies didn't laugh. He went pale. He knew exactly what Mila was talking about. The quarry, as you know, Mr. Davies, Mila continued, her voice echoing in the silent, wood-paneled room, is the linchpin of your new Harmony Creek commercial development. It is the only parcel of land suitable for the foundation. And your development group has been unable to find the owner. She paused, letting the tension build. We are here to inform you that the owner is my client, Mrs. Agnes Periwinkle. Thomas's face went from smug to confused to horrified in 3 seconds. He looked at me, the useless mother he was about to discard. Mom? What is this? Bethany was white as a sheet. That's impossible, she shrieked. Mila just smiled. Oh, it's very possible. And as of this morning, my client has received a very generous all-cash offer from your chief competitor, Westward Developments. But she thought, out of family loyalty, she'd give you a chance to match it. The boardroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Thomas stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Mom. I don't understand. I gave him the sweetest, most confused smile I could muster. Oh, I'm just a foggy old woman, Thomas. I leave all these complicated things to dear Mila. She's so smart. The look of dawning comprehension on his face, the realization that he'd been played, was a cold, satisfying balm on my wounded heart. Bethany, for her part, looked like she was going to be sick. Mr. Davies, the bank president, was all business. He saw his multi-million-dollar project, and likely his own career, flashing before his eyes. He ignored my stunned son and daughter-in-law and focused entirely on me. Mrs. Periwinkle, he said, his voice now slick as oil, my apologies for any misunderstanding. I'm sure we can come to an arrangement that is very beneficial for you. What is your price for the quarry? My price, I said, my voice suddenly clear and strong, isn't just about money, Mr. Davies. I leaned forward. First, the quarry will be sold to your bank for its full 8-figure valuation. Not a penny less. Davies nodded slowly. He knew he had no choice. Second, I continued, my farmhouse. It's my home. Your bank will pay, from its community fund, to have it fully restored. A new roof, new plumbing, the works. You will also fund a lifetime stipend for its upkeep. I will not be a burden to anyone. Bethany made a small, strangled sound. You can't, that's our inheritance. It was my land, Bethany, I said, my voice like ice. A useless old woman's land. You were so worried about this house. Well, now it's taken care of. Thomas was pale, finally seeing the woman his father had married, the woman he had so terribly underestimated. The power in the room, which had been so firmly on their side, had just crossed the table. It was now sitting in my lap. But there's more, I said, letting the silence stretch. Mr. Davies, trapped, just nodded. I'm an old woman, Mr. Davies. What do I need with all those millions? Bethany's eyes suddenly lit up with a desperate, greedy hope. She thought I was going to give it to them. Her hope died a quick, painful death. So, I announced, the majority of the sale, $8 million, will be placed into a new trust. It will be called the Periwinkle Foundation. The foundation's sole purpose, Mila chimed in, sliding another document to Mr. Davies, will be the restoration of Harmony Creek's historic downtown and the creation of the Agnes Periwinkle Senior Grant, a fund to help senior citizens with medical bills and home repairs. So no one else's family can call them a burden. This was my justice. It wasn't just for me, it was for everyone they'd dismissed. Bethany was practically vibrating with rage. This is insane. Thomas, stop her. But Thomas was staring at me with a new, horrified respect. He knew he was beaten. And a foundation of this size, I said, looking directly at my son, will need a manager. Someone with banking experience, who knows the town. Thomas's blood drained from his face. Mom, no. I want Thomas assigned as the full-time manager of the Periwinkle Foundation, I told Mr. Davies. He will be removed from his corporate track position here. His new job will be to serve the community he was so ready to abandon, from a new office in the old, restored town hall. He will answer to the foundation's board, which I will chair. I smiled at my son. It's that, or I call westward developments. Your choice, gentlemen. Thomas had wanted to put me in a home. Instead, I had just put him in a box. 6 months later, I sat on my newly repaired porch swing, sipping iced tea. The farmhouse was magnificent. The roof was new, the paint was a fresh, sunny yellow, and the loose flagstone that started it all was now part of a beautiful, safe, new garden path. My home was no longer a burden, it was a landmark. The restoration, paid for by the bank's community fund, had been the talk of the town. But it was nothing compared to the work happening downtown. The Periwinkle Foundation was rebuilding Harmony Creek, piece by piece. The old mill was being turned into a community arts center. The peeling facades on Main Street were being restored to their former glory. And my senior grant was quietly paying for new roofs, walkers, and prescription drugs for a dozen old-timers. I was no longer the useless grandma. When I walked into the diner, people would stand up. They'd thank me. They didn't see a frail woman, they saw a hero. Thomas, for his part, was a changed man. His new office was small, dusty, and located right in the chaos of the town hall's restoration. He'd lost his slick bank salary and his corporate ambition. He spent his days reviewing grant applications from people he'd spent his entire adult life ignoring. It was hard, humbling work. He was no longer a predator, he was, for the first time, a servant. He visited me every Sunday, not out of obligation, but, I think, out of a genuine, baffled respect. He apologized, his voice thick. I'm still not sure if I've forgiven him, but it was a start. And Bethany? She was quietly furious. She was still trapped in her Willow Creek Estates house, but the prestige was gone. Her husband was no longer a rising bank star, he was a small-town charity manager, working for his mother. She had the manicured lawn and the big house, but it all tasted like ash in her mouth. She had underestimated the useless old woman, and in doing so, had lost the very status she'd been willing to destroy me for. That, I thought, was the gentlest, most poetic justice of all. My name is Agnes Periwinkle, and I am 79 years old. My home is my sanctuary, and my town, in a strange new way, has become my legacy. The other day, my granddaughter, Lily, came to visit me. She came alone, without her parents forcing her. She brought me a drawing of the farmhouse, the new, yellow one, and sat with me on the porch. I'm proud of you, Grandma, she said quietly, and it was the first time I felt like she truly saw me. I've learned that being a hero isn't about grand, loud gestures. Sometimes, it's about holding on when everyone, even your own family, is trying to make you let go. It's about remembering your own worth, even when the people who are supposed to love you most have forgotten it. The tin box Arthur left me still sits on my mantel. It's a reminder that the past is never dead, it's a weapon, a map, a second chance, all waiting in the dust for us to find it. My revenge wasn't loud or fiery. It was quiet. It was the justice of a gardener. I didn't destroy my son, I pruned him. I cut away the diseased parts, his greed, his ambition, his weakness, and gave him a chance to grow into something better, something rooted in the community he came from. He's quieter now, and kinder. He's finally becoming the man his father would have been proud of. They tried to brand me as useless. They tried to put me in a box. Instead, I took a box Arthur left me and used it to rebuild a whole community. In the end, I didn't just prove them wrong, I proved myself right. I was never a burden. I was, and am, Agnes Periwinkle. And I am far from finished. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from Agnes's story? Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks.